Hi, my name is Gints, and today I would like to share some experience of mine in the field of meditation. Right from the start, I'm not saying I know everything. In actuality, my views and understanding is constantly shifting and changing, and as I would like to think, evolving. So let's start. So about me, I'm a certified physical therapist, also a certified yoga teacher, and a lecturer at university. My hobbies do include long distance running, yoga, and calisthenics. So let's start with some historical background. So from 900 to 200 BCE, we could say that four distinct contemplative traditions evolved. So one was in the Indian subcontinent, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. Second was in China, Confucianism and Taoism. Third, in Middle East, monotheism. And fourth, in Greece, philosophical rationalism. And of course, regarding meditation, the two traditions that we are probably most interested in are is Hinduism and Buddhism. So if we look at the ancient texts in the Hindu tradition, we have Upanishads, and the earliest known definition of yoga comes in the third century BCE, Katha Upanishad. And in the sixth chapter, it's said that the condition in which the senses are held still and one becomes undistracted is named yoga. So there's this famous picture of a chariot and horses. Basically, the consciousness is the passenger, the Atman, you could say the soul, and it's they together with higher intellect, the buddhi or the higher mind, they're in the chariot, and they've been driven by senses, and the mind is the reins that's holding the horses at bay, at command. So basically, our soul is the passenger, and our higher mind is trying to control the senses in a way. But usually the horses run wild, as we know. One more important thing to understand regarding the Hindu philosophy and also meditation as it's seen in Buddhism and Hindu tradition is that the idea of karma, and karma is said to be the force generated by a person's actions to perpetuate transmigration and in its ethical consequences to determine the nature of the person's next existence. And it's not entirely black and white. In fact, there are three types of karma, you could say. The one is the let's say the big reserve, and in each incarnation, the soul is supposed to take a little bit of this big reserve that you have accumulated. And so the big reserve of pool is Sanchita karma, and Prarabdha karma will be the one that is taken for this actual incarnation. And then there's the Agami karma, which is created in this lifetime for, let's say, the next incarnations. And basically, all of these interact with each other. So, for example, the way how you respond to what's happening to you in this life determines, your actions and reactions, and in turn, you with actions in this life, you then again um, have something else to add to the big pool of your, let's say, big pool of karma. One more interesting idea is that we have actually five sheets of being. So the most obvious one will be the physical body, the physical sheet, and which is if you translate it directly, is that what you eat, you become. Basically, our body consists of what we consume. Then if we look more deeper, we have this subtle body, which is also consisting of a couple of layers then. So there's the pranamaya, manomaya, and vijnanamaya, which is the vital energy, the mind, emotions, and wisdom and intuition. So all of these we could say is the subtle body. And then we have, well, in the picture you see a typo. It's not the casual body, it's actually the causal body. So that will be the Anandamaya kosha. So the deeper, the innermost layer. So in our everyday life, all of these five sheets are constantly interacting, and for the sake of making it a bit more convenient, we can say that we have basically three bodies: the physical one, the inner one, which consists of our thoughts and emotions and energy, and then the innermost one, which is the soul, the deepest part. So if you look at one way how to view the philosophy of yoga, at least according to the traditional Patanjali Yoga Sutras, at least in this interpretation, because there are quite a few interpretations possible. And basically, this is the one I like at the moment. So we have the Purusha, the soul, and Prakriti, which is the nature, the physical nature. And because there's mixing between them, the soul, in a way, loses its independence, you could say. So there's as if there's would be like a veil covering the soul because we don't know who we are. So avidya or ignorance is the veil, and avidya is fed by, or you could say avidya is the tree, and the kleshas or the afflictions of the mind um, is the cause or the fruit. You know, it works both ways. I have a nice picture after this slide showing it, explaining these terms better. So then, in order to get rid of this ignorance, so the proposed way is the Ashtanga Yoga, or the eightfold path, eight-step path. And then that would lead to samadhi or a liberation. So to repeat once more, so Purusha or the soul and Prakriti comes together. Consciousness mixes with that which is not conscious, with the physical realm, with the physical nature. And somehow we mistake the body and mind to be the self, but the body and mind is not really the self according to yoga. So the consciousness, which is the self, is reflected in the mind to the extent that the mind is clear. But the problem is that the mind is not clear because it's consumed with the outer, ever-changing nature. So mind fluctuates, and therefore it reveals consciousness or the innermost being, the soul, only partially. In result, avidya or ignorance comes into being, and that produces the kleshas or the afflictions. So in yoga, we try to extract the purusha, the consciousness or the soul, from the prakriti, which is the physical nature, which is unconscious. Basically, you separate the consciousness from that which is non-conscious. And in order to do that, we practice Ashtanga Yoga as a remedy and slowly get to enlightenment or liberation or samadhi. Well, there is difference between these terms, but for a beginner, we can put them in a similar category. So this is the picture. Basically, ignorance is the root, the trunk of the tree. We don't see things as they are, and we don't see things as they are because if you look at the left bottom branch, because we have raga or attachment with things that we do like. And if you look at the top right corner, we have dvesha or aversion for things that we dislike. So it's just natural. We want things that we like, and we dislike things. We try to push away things that we do not like. So all of these likes and dislikes and the interaction with this ever-changing physical nature creates a sense of I or ego, as we can see on the top left corner. And this is like defensive sense of I, you could say, because the deeper I is the soul. But it is by interacting with the ever-changing physical nature, with time we develop this kind of false sense of I, the ego, which is fed by our likes and dislikes, and which results in actually us fearing to lose our identity, like abhinivesha, or fear of losing life. So all of these four feed the ignorance, or you could say the ignorance is the reason why all of these come into existence. And this is uh, the view proposed by yoga. So in order to liberate ourselves from this ignorance, basically the eightfold path of, or Ashtanga yoga is proposed. We have external disciplines, yamas, we have internal disciplines, niyamas, we have asana, or as it is originally a meditation seat, a comfortable position for meditation. Then we have pranayama, which is the breathing, uh, let's say, breath control or breathing exercises. We have pratyahara, which is a result of our breath control, where the senses are withdrawn to back to ourselves. Then it enables us to concentrate better, and then a continuous concentration would lead to dhyana or meditation or meditative absorption, which would in turn, in time, lead us to samadhi or liberation. And historically, it is interesting to see that probably quite a few of these ideas we just talked about were influenced by Buddhism, because Buddhism precedes the classical yoga as it is put out by Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So in Buddhism, if we look at on the left side, the Four Noble Truths in Buddhism. So in a similar way as the ancient doctors in Ayurveda did, basically first they saw that there's a symptom. Symptom is suffering. The reason, the diagnosis would be delusion, craving, or you could say ignorance, basically. Prognosis, it can be ended, and then the prescription. To end it, you have to follow the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path, according to Buddhism, would be right view, right thought, right morality, right speech, right action, right livelihood. And then we have to meditation part, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So in Buddhism, you have all of these things, and you have to take them in context. And of course, like the five precepts at the bottom, basically not harming anyone, trying to refrain from lying and gossip. So all these things like support each other. So you could say a similar way of thinking as in the classical yogas put by Patanjali within the Yoga Sutras. And Buddhism, yeah, the birthplace of Buddha was Lumbini, which is nowadays Nepal. And for more than 40 years, like Buddha traveled India with his monks and trying to, bring people to the right understanding of things. And during the next centuries, the Buddhism spread all over the Asia in different forms, though. Like there's this ancient form of Theravada, then there's after that came Mahayana and Vajrayana, which is like a mix with Tibetan traditional religion. So you have all of these things, and it's just to understand the context from where do we have these nowadays ideas about meditation, like what's the actual historical roots. So Buddha is said to have identified two paramount mental qualities that arise from wholesome meditative practice. So one is serenity or tranquility, which is shamatha or samatha, and the other one is insight or vipassana. And these two are probably, yeah, some of the popular styles of meditation you would come to know nowadays. Like samatha will be a concentration meditation, and insight will be vipassana, which is quite popular. And technically, in general, it is recommended to practice concentration before attempting meditation. If we look at the popularity of meditation, so when people were asked, like, have you tried meditation in the last month? So the percentage of people answering yes have tripled from 2012 until 2017, actually by 10% during that period. And if you imagine like the period during pandemic, probably the numbers are still higher now. Also in the research in mindfulness in academic journal article titles have grown exponentially. If you look, for example, 2010 until 2020. So the research is also growing rapidly. And if we talk about mindfulness, we could say it's an awareness cultivated through meditation and other mind-body practices. And the idea is to regulate and shape our attention and emotions. So that's one way how to put it. Because the usual thing that happens is we live mostly like in an autopilot. We have stimulus and then we react to it. And there's no, let's say, no free will, no consciousness whatsoever. So in mindfulness, we try to put a gap between our getting a stimuli and responding. So basically, you create space in between your own thoughts and in between your thought and outer stimuli and your reaction to it, your response. And there have been some, actually quite a few things improving during with mindfulness practice, like reducing stress and anxiety, and improving mood and working memory, etc. So one way how to look at it is you can imagine yourself being on a bus station, and instead of jumping in, like stepping into the first bus that comes, if you're mindful, you stay away and you let the buses pass basically, because you know that maybe you wait for a bus which comes maybe in half an hour. So if you are not mindful, if you're not conscious, you might step into a bus that's not the one that you're waiting for. And yeah, in this way you create a distance space, allowing the buses to go, but not really interacting with them. And the same goes for your thoughts in this example. So, and the idea is not to keep your mind clear with mindfulness, like at all times. It's more about applying and reapplying the intention. And as soon as we notice that the mind is walking away, like following any kind of thoughts, you kind of just bring it back. And this very fact of bringing your attention back is the process that's training your mind, your nervous system. It's the same way as you look, for example, if you would have a dumbbell and you train your biceps. So with the repetition, you grow stronger. And in the same way, the moment you notice your awareness, because your mind has stepped into one of those buses and drove away somewhere, basically you just notice it and you come back to just be mindful and yeah, to have the space within you. If we look at some popular websites, so there are quite a few meditation types listed. So mindfulness meditation, spiritual meditation, focused meditation, movement meditation, mantra meditation, transcendental one, progressive relaxation, loving kindness meditation, and visualizations. And all of these have different effect on different parts of our brain, actually. So regarding meditation, like probably one of the most common areas of interest is the frontal lobe. So which is kind of controlling our reactivity towards our impulses. It's like that's the part which is actually connected with being mindful, not jump away and react to the emotions and everything that goes on in the brainstem and the emotional parts and the deeper layers of our brain. So you could say, yeah, that's the part that makes us human in a way, because mammals, like all of the mammals, have these like deeper layers, like living beings do breathe and they do have heart pumping. So all of these brain parts are corresponded to that. And more evolved mammals also have, you could say, kind of emotions and maybe even rudimentary thoughts. But what makes us human is our capacity not to be overly reactive and to have this space to think more about things and not to jump to conclusions and the reactions to emotional triggers. Also to consider is the level of dopamine release. So if we are too stressed, which is the thing really acute nowadays, like people being bombarded with information via phones and internet and everything. So it's hard for our prefrontal cortex to act and to have inspiration, motivation to do anything, right? So if you're too stressed, you should relax. Then again, if you're too relaxed and you have no stimuli, it might be hard for you to do anything. So if you are in stress, it's healthy for you to include some moments of boredom in your daily life. Maybe just laying down in your bed and just looking at the ceiling. So for the brain to have some space to figure things out. Otherwise, if at every moment you're trying to relax with your phone, you're just adding more and more information. That's not really relaxation. And then if you have a lack of this dopamine, it might be actually better to go, for example, for a run. And so if you lack dopamine, in that case, like meditation might come difficult for you. So in that case, maybe it's better to do some physical activity to wake your brain and body. One more thing to understand about the brain is that evolutionary, our brain is prone to negative thinking. And it's connected to historical, like basically our evolution, because imagine our ancestors in the Stone Age. So every time something in the bushes shift, you would have to think that it might be some predator trying to get his lunch. So the faster you realize that there's a potential danger, the more chances that you would survive. So our brain is wired to negative thinking. And that's why sometimes sitting down for meditation, well, sometimes the negative things pop up first. So it takes effort to have more of a positive approach, more of a positive thinking. So be kind to yourself. If your mind is roaming when you sit down, it's not really your fault. It's just how the brain works, and it takes a bit of effort to shift. So I like a quote by William Wordsworth. Your mind is the garden, your thoughts are the seeds. The harvest can either be flowers or weeds. Basically, what we put in our mind, that's the result we get. So be careful of what you're watching and reading and, things you interact with. Okay, so let's look at some of the research, functional neuroanatomy of meditation. So functional brain areas being activated during meditation is interoception, empathy, complex mental tasks, working memory, mental imagery, conceptual reasoning, regulation of attention and emotion, monitoring performance, meta awareness or the awareness of your own thinking, metacognitive capacity. So all of these have been shown to actually be activated, the areas of the brain corresponding to these tasks. So if you do focused attention meditation, so there will be activations in brain areas for cognitive control that require monitoring performance and voluntary regulation of attention and behavior, basically the prefrontal cortex. And then there are a couple of regulation demands and deactivations in mind wandering, episodic memory retrieval, simulation of future events, and other things. So some things are being stimulated and some things are being deactivated when you're focusing, basically. So when you have this open monitoring meditation, which corresponds, if we look back to Buddha and the Buddhism slide. So there was this shamatha, which is the concentrated, focused attention meditation. And then we have open monitoring, which would be the vipassana. So with, let's say, vipassana, you would have activations in brain areas for voluntary regulation of thought and action, interoceptive processing, and cognitive control, and the activations in areas corresponding to sensory gating and no blocking of sensory information. Then also there have been some research comparing Buddhist tradition meditations and Hinduism tradition meditations. And it's interesting to see that Buddhism-inspired meditation practices are said to trigger more activation in frontal lobe regions associated with executive attention, so frontal part. And Hinduism meditation practices could mainly trigger activations in the posterior temporoparietal cortex. So different areas of your brain activated with different kinds of meditations. So one way how to look at it, it's through the scope of neurofeedback. So neurofeedback or EEG or electroencephalography biofeedback, it's also a therapeutic intervention in which your brain wave activity is monitored and assessed. So it provides immediate feedback, typically either visually or with the sound. So different areas of your body, of your brain, produce small um, electrical signals, and these devices tend to read those signals and transfer them to either visual or auditory information. And basically you get the information straight away, and then you can shift your behavior or let's say your way of concentration or breathing and have immediate feedback what's going on and act accordingly. For example, yeah, these kind of devices, maybe the graph says that your mind has wandered and it gives you just like immediate feedback that you can correct yourself. And it's not that the brain is working all together in one, let's say, electrical frequency. No, it's like different parts of the brain work in different frequencies at different times. But generally, we can say that, okay, when we are awake, it's mostly like beta, it's alertness, concentration, and cognition. So when we are relaxed, it's more like alpha waves. Meditation will be uh, closer to theta, but also could be alpha. Basically, different meditations have different brain waves if we look at research. And delta would be the deep sleep, so the dreaming without seeing any dreams. And then we have also gamma, which is peak focus. And there are meditation types where this is, you can see these kind of really intense brain waves actually. So some meditations will be like alpha, some close to theta, and some would be gamma. So there are different things going on in different types of meditations. So this is not an advertisement, but I find this quite interesting. There is this Neuro Meditation Institute, and they do check the brain in order to see what's going on in a way that to find a suitable meditation style for your actual situation, like what's your brain doing and what would be best for it. So they do uh, separate all the meditation types into mainly four types. So focus meditation would help with increasing focus, concentration, and cognitive function. So it would increase the fast brain wave activity. Okay. So then for other people, maybe mindfulness will be more suitable. So it would help with stress, anxiety, and sense of being overwhelmed. So it would increase the slow brain wave activity. And then we have open heart meditation, which helps with empathy and maybe some emotional states. Um, it would increase the fast brain wave activity. So, for example, a person who is stressed out, probably like focused meditation would not be the best way. Maybe for that person, like mindfulness or open heart, for example, would be a better way. Otherwise, like if he's tense already in his mind, maybe the focusing part will just increase the tension. So it's interesting to see. And then the fourth type is the quiet mind, which is for, as they say in this institute, like if you have negative self-talk, perfectionism, also chronic pain, because this is the only meditation type shown to influence chronic pain, according to the authors of this approach. Yeah, how it works increases slow brainwave activity. Okay, so again, they will check what's going on with your brain and then um, see what would be best suitable for you. Okay, that's like the broader scope of things. Now, from my part, from my experience, some ideas that have helped me and do help still. So basically, we have five senses of hearing, sight, touch, taste, and smell. So all of these we do have, but for me, it helps that to understand that actually our thought is a sense as well, because it's most of the time out of our control. It's like a really fast reaction in our mind to the senses. So maybe you see something, you hear something, you taste something, immediately there's some connection in your brain, like some memory, some association, and thought pops up without you being involved consciously. So your thought, your thinking is actually also a way of, it's basically a sense. It's most of the time out of your control. So again, do not be too hard on yourself. Like when you sit down to meditate, it's okay that your mind is going wild, basically. So thoughts, according to this graph, thoughts create feelings, feelings create your behavior, and your behavior reinforces thoughts, and that again influences your thoughts. But this circle you can shift the other way around. Your thoughts do influence your behavior, and then your feelings, and then your feelings also influence your thoughts. So it can be interacting in many different ways. Basically, yeah, most of the time it's automatic, you could say. So right from the childhood, we are most like more like a white page. Basically, we're clear, and then only by repeating things we become something and someone. Basically, we become what we constantly repeat. Like a small baby doesn't know his name. It's just that the parents are constantly repeating his name. So baby maybe doesn't know how to make a particular movement, how to stand up, but by repeating physical actions, like his brain is adjusting, and and he learns new things, and those things with time become habit, because it will take tremendous effort for our system or brain to learn the same things like every day anew. It's not possible. So we need this habitual thing. We need this kind of habitual movement patterns, and also probably thinking patterns, because yeah, otherwise we wouldn't survive. But then again, in many ways we are stuck in some of these preconceived loops of habits, you could say. So here's a nice quote by Donald Hebb: neurons that fire together wire together, which again corresponds to you become what you constantly repeat, basically. What you repeat, that's what you become. So popular thing nowadays is actually Advaita, or the idea that everything is one. Advaita means non-dual. Basically, it's non-dualism, and which sounds nice in theory, but in actuality, like in my experience, you do have to practice something, like dedicate some time for your inner world. Like if you just sit in your couch and have the idea that everything is one and you are already enlightened, it is true in a way in the deeper layer of your being. That, as we saw in the graph, having the all the koshas or the layers, like our innermost being is already enlightened. Yeah, that's true. But our outer layers are confused and chaotic. So we do have to put, I would say, some effort to have some kind of balance in our lives. And I like the quote of Ken Wilber, actually: states are free, but structures are earned. Meaning, for example, even now, you can have an experience of transcendental bliss, or maybe you've had some spontaneous meditation by walking along the ocean or somewhere. So these deeper states, this deeper layer of your being is available right now. But you have to earn, you have to put some work in order for the structure to become ready to host this kind of, let's say, a higher state, like the deeper layer within yourself. So states are free, they're already within us, these higher states. But the structure or the stage at where are you at now, it has to be earned. You have to, prepare the structure for, you have to prepare the house for someone to live in. So your soul is already ready, it is already enlightened, but we do have to do something in order to open our mind, to open our heart, to have this inner reality flow through our mind, through our emotions and body. So, well, that's my view, at least. Otherwise, we have the risk of meditation becoming a form of escapism. So whenever you don't like something in the outer world, you might want to, just escape into these pleasant states that might come to you either naturally, or maybe some people do use psychedelics and other things, which kind of forcefully pulls these states into your system. Like you kind of, let's say, if your brain is closed, if your mind is closed, heart is closed, you can forcefully push them open with the help of some substances, but then it can be painful coming back, because the higher you jump, uh, the harder the landing, at least if you're not prepared to land, or you do not have anywhere to land. So it can be a bit dangerous. Also, psychologically, maybe you do not have a pleasant situation in your surroundings or your everyday life, and you might want to, escape into some kind of philosophies, or, for example, Advaita. It's like everything is one. I do not have to do anything. So that's not what the Advaita people say, but sometimes it can be a way how to escape, like some kind of philosophies, for example. And then if you do not do your actual karma, your work that you were supposed to do in this lifetime, according to yoga, so then you're just postponing the actual work that your soul has come to do in this world. And yeah, you might live in a pleasant kind of state, but actually we haven't come here to run away. We have come here probably, as I would say, to do some inner work, to make the space for the inner being to manifest in the outer reality. Well, in any case, there are many ways how to view this. So understanding is temporary. So you might want to read books and listen to lectures, but if you want permanent satisfaction, you have to take action. You have to take steps. You have to shelter inside the essence of your being and not in your mind's interpretations. But understanding things can open up the space in your mind for the presence of the spirit. So it's not totally, useless. We do listen to lectures and read books, and, it inspires us to open up, but then the doors open up, and then we have to still take some steps. And sometimes also, when we do have experience of real meditation, if you listen close enough, like you will notice that your mind immediately jumps in and tries to explain the whole thing. It kind of tries to steal the moment. Like it's as if you're like meditating and you experience this moment of stillness and silence, and then your mind suddenly kicks in. Oh, I'm not thinking. So that's an idea in itself, basically, and you lose the silence. And then, like, if you practice every day, and then one day it works out somehow, and then your mind immediately sometimes maybe tries to explain, okay, today it works. What did I do for it in order for it to work? So what should I do next time? So it immediately starts to try to take credit, right? But the fact is that, as we discussed, this inner state, this state of bliss and fulfillment, it's already within us. It comes without any cost. It comes naturally. But because we are a little bit afraid of losing our identity, that's how the mind unconsciously jumps in and tries to, take credit for the experience sometimes. But all of us should do some, like in my opinion, all of us should do some sort of spiritual practice because, yeah, it's like we live in the 21st century. I think humanity in whole is ready for it. And living a spiritual life means that you give space and time for your spirit. So no matter how you call it, no matter how you call it, we all have something within us which is probably outside the scope of our mind. You can call it soul or spirit or whatever name you like to give. But yeah, to live a spiritual life is just that you give at least 5 minutes and turn your attention from the outside world to the inside. So that what we are seeking is already within us. We are just trying to find our key, our way to unlock it. That's the thing. And everyone might have a slightly different way, okay? And it's totally okay. There's no single way that would suit for everyone. And even if you find your way, it will shift with time. It will change a little bit because you also do change. At least your outer layers change and rearrange and shift in order to be more, um, let's say, clear for the inner reality. So the outer layers are mixing and moving, and it's all for the benefit of your um, of you being more transparent for your inner reality. That includes also the unpleasant experiences. So everything that happens for a good reason, you could say. At least this kind of thinking helps you shift from the negative thinking to a more positive approach. So I would say at the moment, my current definition of meditation is that meditation is the art of surrendering to the unknown. So in our mind, we do try to create, and we have created kind of a separate world where because that's what makes us feel more safe. That's what keeps us, our likes and dislikes in a special kind of place, like a special kind of position where it's more comfortable for us to pull things that we do like and push things that we do not like. So we are quite protective in our understanding, um, in our self. So it takes conscious and creative actually effort. That's why it's an art that you surrender this temporary understanding to the unknown reality within you. You are a consciousness that's entangled in a net of impressions from constant outer stimuli. And it's important to accept yourself with a kind attitude and slowly let that entanglement to loosen up. So practically, first, you do make your breath deep and calm. Second, you give yourself space. Instead of your mind, your breath following your mind, you allow your mind to follow your breath. So when you follow the breath, the some inner space opens up gradually, and then you guide your awareness toward the middle of the chest, the spiritual heart, and be present there. So that's the place where we put hand when we say I. That's the middle of the chest. And whenever you notice that your attention has been pulled away by outer or inner impressions, you relax, you release, and surrender once more to the inner presence. In summary, you give yourself space. Kindly, you guide your awareness toward the middle of the chest and surrender to the inner presence when you feel it, when you have it. Because Why the middle of the chest? Because usually our consciousness is kind of anchored in our head, in our mind. That's the place where we try to pull and push things. And we do need some kind of other anchor. So the middle of the chest or spiritual heart might be, it's a strong place, you could say. It's a solid place where you can sense the sense who you are way more easily than other places inside your body. And if you get that sensation, it's easy. It becomes like a magnet that pulls the consciousness back from the mind back to the heart, because the heart, you could say, that's where the soul lives. Um, that's where the energy comes to actually to energy of being alive comes from your heart, through your heart, from your soul. So practically start with 5 minutes every morning and every evening. Set a particular space for your meditation practice and make it a pleasant habit. So it's better to have 5 minutes where you do enjoy your time than to have half an hour where you torture yourself. So at least 5 minutes. And if it's hard for you to sit up and do anything, at least do some simple relaxation. For example, laying with your feet, your legs on a chair or on the floor or legs on the wall. At least you can put some nice music, and for 5 minutes you can, at least for 5 minutes you can relax. It's a really good thing after a day, a working day. So proper meditation posture. So it's important to maintain your lumbar lordosis or the lumbar core. For example, the sitting picture, and this one, the chest is compressed and the breathing is probably shallow. And if you're sitting on the floor, also, like if you have your pelvis tilted anteriorly, you would have the possibility to maintain the spinal curves, which again frees the way for the diaphragm to move. Otherwise, your breathing might be compromised. There are quite a few ways how to sit. Probably I would not recommend the lotus position for the knees, because of the knees. For most of the people in the West, this is not really possible. But you can sit with the pillow between your legs, or a special meditation bench, or legs crossed, or yeah, like just on a chair with a cushion or something behind your back. Even on a chair, you can sit with a cushion. Or you can sit on the floor and have your back supported against the wall, for example. So yeah, posture is an important thing. Then the eye position. So if you have your eyes closed, you kind of shift from the outer stimuli, but the problem is that with eyes closed, all the inner impressions and emotions and thoughts pop up straight away. For some people, it might work, but it's not probably a long-term solution for most people. Also, to stare at something, it might work for a while as a form of concentration. For example, like concentrating on a candle, or let's say a black dot on the wall or something small. So yeah, that would activate your concentration skill, develop your concentration skill. But that's only preliminary to meditation. Like in meditation, we see the Buddha eyes over here. So you want to be the eyes to be half opened and half closed, so that you're both relaxed and aware of your surroundings. And it's interesting that the eye position also influences what happens in our nervous system. For example, like in open monitoring meditation, you would want your eyes to have to be in like a peripheral, more of a peripheral vision mode, because that would activate more of the parasympathetic nervous system. Whereas if you have a narrow focus, eye focus, let's say on some object, you would activate more of yeah, of the sympathetic nervous system. So again, different things we do with our body stimulates the brain and the nervous system in different ways. The same with the hand position, like hands down would probably calm you down, hands up, like in your uh, hands up, like one palm inside the other would probably be more active position for your nervous system. And then to fold the palms in front of your chest would help you feel your heart center more. So if you're tired, you might start, let's say, sitting down, palms down, eyes closed, couple of minutes just relaxing, concentrating on your breath. Then you might want to shift to this position with the palms up, which is brings a bit more of an awareness in your nervous system. And then as you feel your space opening up, you can guide your attention towards your heart, and then you can fold the palms in front of your chest, which can help you to feel your heart center more, which will be a stronger sensation of yourself, let's say, like it's as if you're awakening a magnet inside your chest, which pulls the attention back from the mind to the heart. So you can try different things. And yeah, of course, the breathing. So it would be important to use the diaphragm to inhale and allow the abdomen and the lower ribs and the chest expand evenly. It's not that you breathe in and there's the balloon at the level of your navel, but the chest doesn't move at all. The best will be that the belly moves, expands, but also the ribs move to the sides, to the back, and to the front. So it's 360 kind of 360 inhalation. And as we discussed previously, it's either your breath follows your mind. So if your mind is active, your life force would just support that, or your mind follows your breath. So try to breathe naturally in a relaxed way. You can imagine your breath coming down to your abdomen and down to your chest. And basically, for a couple of minutes at the beginning of your meditation practice, you can allow your mind to follow your breath instead of trying to pull the breath into the ideas of your mind and the activity of your mind. Always be kind to yourself, and you can elongate your exhalation until you relax more and there's like a free space opens up in your heart that opens up in your heart. And then when you feel the presence of your heart, you basically just relax there. And you can have every inhalation coming not as if it's coming not through your nose, but straight through your heart, in the through the from the front of your chest, basically. So you inhale and exhale through your heart center. If you manage to do that, that's a really strong magnet, let's say, in the middle of your chest that would easily help you with calming down the activity of the mind. So they both help. If you calm down the activity of your mind, you would feel a more space within you. And if there's more space within you and your heart awakens, it would in turn again calm down your mind. So what to do with attention? If you feel, for example, introverted and lost in your inner sensations and emotions, then you can focus on outer object, which is neutral. For example, candle or basic sounds like just the background sounds of, let's say, trees and birds or whatever you like, or some music. And if you feel extroverted and oversaturated with the outer stimuli, then you can listen again to your inner sensations, your breathing, the feel of the sensation of your breathing, for example. Because like if you're really emotional and you have a lot of things going on within yourself, then you would sit down, and if you start right away with the breathing, following your breath, it might just aggravate the inner sensation, the over sensation of your inner state at the moment. Um, but if you have too much of the outer noise going on, then following your inner sensations might be the way to go. So it's like a balance, you could say. So one more image you can have is imagining yourself going through your house, and in one room there's the TV, and something on the TV kind of grabs your attention, some kind of show, for example, um, and you kind of get lost for a minute, 5 minutes, sometimes even longer, because it's so interesting. But as soon as you notice it, you just, you know, carry on with what you were supposed to do. So the same way with your mind, basically, you sit down for meditation, and it's just a split second, and your mind is gone, and it's watching its own movie. So as soon as you notice it, you just bring back your attention and carry on with the breathing, with the with the task that you gave yourself. Be careful. Like if you try to concentrate with the full mind, you will only increase the noise. So if you come back home, and sometimes when you try to concentrate straight away, you will just aggravate all the things that are already turning inside your mind. So in that case, it might be much wiser to go for a little run, for example, or just have a walk outside, and just to even out uh, what's the noise in your mind, like to have some, yeah, some balancing activities. Also, one more image you can use is that you sit down, and the traffic of your mind usually intensifies. Not because it becomes more intense, but it's just that you pay attention to what's going on in yourself. Because before that, you might have been looking outwards, and you didn't notice what's going on inside. And then you sit down and you notice what's going on inside. And yeah, the first thing will be not to try to stop the cars or cross the street while the cars are going. It will not end well. You just wait, be mindful, breathe, relax, be kind to yourself, and sooner or later the traffic calms down, and then it's time to cross. So the thing that you're seeking is across the street of your non-stop rush hour mind. So the mind will always rush, and just try not to jump on the busy street of your mind. So first you wait till the street kind of calms down a little bit. You maybe wait for the green light for the pedestrians. So it takes a little bit of patience and, yeah, a little bit of effort. But when the mind clears, only then you put some effort, and then you can uh, activate more the concentration skill, for example. So sometimes this is the way it works. Sometimes you do have to put the effort first, and then you can relax. Or sometimes, most of the time, the meditation session will be interchanging with a little bit of concentration and a little bit of meditation. So it can be many things for many different things for different people. Um, and if you know what kind of possibilities you have, you might, have a better chance of balancing yourself out. Your thoughts direct the flow of your energy. So if possible, keep the mind clear of thoughts in order to accumulate energy. So concentration will be one way how to do it. Like you do concentrate on one thing, and then uh, by concentrating on one thing, your mind is not wandering during that time. But if the mind is busy, you can use the concentration of, you can use a prayer to gather mind towards a single thought. You can guide your prayer towards your heart, for example, and continue it there in silence. So, for example, you can sit down, repeat a prayer or a mantra that you like, and try to feel it inside the middle of your chest, inside your spiritual heart. And as you repeat it, the space opens up, the heart opens up, and then it's not necessary for the mind maybe to continue with the mantra. It's just that the sensation has awakened, and you just stay there and relax there, and then you do not have to use the mind at all. But usually, in order to calm the mind, which is jumping around with many thoughts, so probably usually the best would be to gather the mind with one thought, and then when you stay with one thought long enough, the mind loses its power of jumping around, and then you can um, release that one thought as well. So again, sometimes you have to start with relaxation, mindfulness, awareness, and just wait for the street to calm down, and then you cross. Sometimes you do have to use some action right away and start with concentration, with prayer. So you can try both ways and see what works for you. So intention is quite important. For me, sometimes it works to ask myself a question. For example, who am I, or what do I want? Because, and for example, the question, who am I, it comes from uh, one of the great teachers in the last century, Ramana Maharshi. So he used this method, for example, like constantly asking, who am I? Because usually the mind is identified with things, and it thinks, so we think that we are, unconsciously we think that we are the things that we are interacting with, we identify with them. And by asking, who am I? And listening to the answer really sincerely within ourselves, slowly kind of mind, let's say, unsticks itself from the things that it looks at. Or the one I use even more is, for example, what do I want? Because there are many things that I do want, I do try to pull or push. And then if I sincerely keep asking myself, what do I want? And guide my attention towards my heart, slowly the sense of presence awakens. And the very fact of asking the question and listening to the answer within my heart, it's a pretty strong technique, I would say. And then also you can choose a spiritual quality, for example, peace, love, light, and use it as a concentration object. Again, I would recommend like the middle of your chest, for example, just to repeat it and feel sincerely that you really do want peace or love. Always be kind to yourself. Don't try to pull or push. Let the impressions in your mind go their own way. Awaken a kind and benevolent attitude in your heart so that it becomes a magnet for your attention. So that's like a heart-based approach. Inspiration. In general, meditation is not something that you create. It's a rather a natural state that unfolds from within you. But as I say, usually there is no grace without a space. So you have to find a way to open up. and we discussed quite a few approaches already, so you just have to try and find what suits you. Because there's always like a tug of war inside ourselves. Like there's this famous Native American Indian story of two wolves. One is the good one, the white one. The other one is the bad one, the black one in this case. And they're always fighting with each other. And the one that you pay attention to, the one that you feed with your attention, that's the one that becomes stronger, and that's the one that is winning the battle within you. So there's always constantly a fight within yourself. But I would like to add that both of those are part of you, and do not try to, let's say, maybe destroy or fight against the dark wolf right away. Like it has its own place and space. It's like in a deeper layer of our being, we are pure and we are the soul and all of that. But by living in this world, we also need the outer layer. So we are not, you know, the outer layer is also important because we do have to interact with the outer world. And if someone wants to harm us, we do have to protect ourselves. So we also need to have some teeth and some muscle to protect ourselves. But generally, we do want to feed the positive wolf, of course, in ourselves, right? We have to be strong and positive. So I would recommend not to neglect parts of yourself, not to fight against parts of yourself, but rather accept the parts in yourself and then guide them towards the lighter side, towards the positive side, step by step, because we do not want to the the big goal would not be to, leave the earth for a higher existence and higher realm. I would say that the end goal would be to try to rearrange and balance ourselves in such a way that we can bring these pure qualities of love, peace, and light into this world. So, in order to transform the things that we do not like, we do have to touch them occasionally. So, we do have to take responsibility of our actions and yeah, stop neglecting things in ourselves. But it has to be gradual, and definitely we have to do it with the help of the positive side within us. So that's why also sometimes um, psychology, psychotherapy can help us understand things within ourselves, but then we also still need to practice some kind of positive thinking and positive sensation and being within ourselves. And that's where the meditation comes in. I would say meditation is not for everyone in a sense that if you do have some kind of mental tension or psychological condition, you would have to see a professional medical help first. But for general population, yeah, there's definitely something that everyone can do, and the spiritual life, the life where you pay attention, give space and time for your spirit, is a thing for everyone. At least having a 3 minute of relaxation at the end of your working day by laying down, or for example, that will be a must for both your muscles and nervous system and also your mind. So there are quite a few ways how to meditate and places to where to meditate, let's say where to focus. And I do recommend a particular approach. So during the night, the small bugs come out, the ones that are producing light. I forgot the name. And we think, okay, well, these small bugs are giving light. Then when the sky is clear, we see the stars and we notice that stars probably might be even a better source of light. Then when the moon comes up, we think, okay, moon definitely shows us the way. But then when we wait for the sun, when the sun comes up, we know that the sun is the best way how we can see things as they are. In the same way in our being, like all of these sources of light, it's the same as within philosophy of yoga. We have these layers of our being: the physical body, emotional one, our mind, or inner intuition, and our soul. So the sun will be our soul, and it is best to take the help of our soul if possible. And we all have access to that. But sometimes when, that is not available, we do have to seek, for example, the help of our, let's say the moon is just reflecting the light of the sun. So we can say maybe the moon is either the heart or the mind, because they do reflect uh, the light of our soul. But so we do work with what we can at the moment. Maybe we do have to use our mind at the beginning a little bit. Just maybe we do have to use our body, our breathing, or visualizations and the mantras and all of that. But as soon as the sun comes up, all of that doesn't matter. We have achieved our goal, and our inner being has come to the front, and we are in the presence of the light, love, and peace of our soul. All that being said, even if you don't feel your soul right away, for example, even if you don't feel the presence of love and peace, which is you could say, the fragrance of your soul, still you can direct your mind, your consciousness, and attention towards these, let's say, ideas or sensations. And even maybe that's an imagination at the beginning, but as you keep coming back to your heart and sincerely kind of long for these qualities inside your heart, inside your mind, inside your life, basically, then they do come to the front slowly, and they do enlighten your life. So we're coming to the end of this lecture. So let us have a couple of quotes from some scriptures, some Upanishads. It is indeed the mind that is the cause of man's bondage and liberation. The mind that is attached to sense objects leads to bondage, while dissociated from sense objects, it tends to lead to liberation. The self that is subtler than the subtle and greater than the great is seated in the heart of every creature. One who is free from desire sees the glory of the self through the tranquility of the mind and senses, and become absolved from grief. As rivers flowing down become indistinguishable on reaching the sea by giving up their names and forms, so also the illumined soul, having become freed from name and form, reaches the self-effulgent supreme self. And at the very end, some quotes from my meditation teacher. And yeah, truth to be told, like the experiences I have had and the views I have at the moment, which are constantly changing, of course, but still they have been largely influenced by my meditation teacher, Sri Chinmoy, especially the heart approach part. Because I do like to understand things mentally, but this kind of heart approach does, I would say, balance me out so that I'm not totally in my mind, not as much as I could be without uh, the guidance of my spiritual master, my meditation teacher. So, yeah, a couple of quotes. Life is eternity's silent journey towards infinity. If you want to study yourself, remember that your heart is your own true mirror. Love is God's life breath in us. Okay, so that's it from my part. I do hope you find some of these ideas, you will find some of these ideas helpful in your own journey. Um, Take care and yeah, remember it's an ongoing journey. You will not have all the answers straight away. The information you got is more like a possible inspiration for you to take steps or continue your way, your journey. And I hope we did uh, had you did had some nuggets of inspiration. Well, thank you and have a nice day.